Really? We're seriously doing this? I gave you guys 6 videos last month. 6! And it's still not enough? All month long I'm getting, where's SBO? Where's SBO? How come no SBO? And the moment I give you that Barney lizard, all I'm getting is, where's Heavy and Bomb? Where's Heavy and Bomb? Why no Heavy and Bomb? Who actually cares? I was gonna try and do the actual review over Knuckles Chaotix, but nobody's even asking for that. They just want these 2 stupid robots. Is there even enough content to justify a whole video about these 2? Well, of course there is. Who are you talking to here? Welcome back to November Chaotix. Nope, scratch that. Welcome to Chaotix Plus. That's right, we're going into overtime. I'll give you a few more details a little bit later, but for now, we got a couple of robots to talk about. Yes, fake rage aside, we are actually going to do a video about these 2, because who else would? This is the exact channel you go to for some random crap like this. I have to admit, I have always wondered what's the deal with these 2 robots ever since they were first revealed back in 1995. You see, they're not technically a part of the Chaotix team. They were instead known as mechanics. Cute name, but also their literal job. In the manual, they are described as Robotnik's mechanics gone rogue to help out Knuckles and his friends. And it doesn't really give us more information than that, but they do throw in a question to leave you pondering. The manual also asks if these 2 are actually friendly, or are they serving as double agents to slow down the Chaotix? And that is a fair question. They're not on the cover in any region, they're not on the title screen, they're not even in the player select screen. Hell, you can't even play them outside of some very specific instances. If you're going single player, you can swap characters with the proper monitor power, or you can throw one of the robots into one of the magic giant rings to have them go through the bonus stage or special stage. I also just love that Bomb just drops. Like any other character, they're spinning their little hearts out, but Bomb here is just like, oh, whatever, I guess. And of course, if you have a second controller, the second player can play one of these 2 robots. Also, fun little note, even though these characters are often portrayed together, you can't actually play the 2 of them at the same time in Chaotix. Not without a code anyway. Which we're just going to use here, so we have some footage to use for the video. Now, these 2 aren't considered main characters because they actually serve more as a punishment than anything else. While Heavy is indestructible, he will drag you down, and while Bomb is lighter, it will explode at the slightest thing. That can take out other badniks, but it can also hurt your player character as well. So I can understand the trepidation when considering them allies. Oh, you're a walking bomb? And you want to attach yourself to me? Sure, I see no problems in that. Here, buddy, have a ring. Also, I never noticed this as a kid when looking at the choices in the Combi Catcher. I just assumed that they doubled up characters just for the sake of variety, but the only characters that have multiple copies are the 2 robots, which would imply that Robotnik made multiples for you. Now, as far as their true allegiance is concerned, it can go one of many ways, and quite frankly, all of them make sense to me. Eggman loves his carnivals and theme parks, and just look how he set this place up. What's the actual purpose to any of this? It's just a big, dumb game for him. The Chaotix are rats running around his maze, and he threw in some extra partner bots just for the sake of the experiment. But while it makes perfect sense for Robotnik to make intentionally obnoxious robots, it would also not surprise me if he made these robots genuinely believe they're doing a good thing, or he could have accidentally created sentience. I look at his later creations and I'm still not entirely sure either way. Robotnik is a weird, crazy dude, but that actually is why these 2 little robots are so important and super underappreciated. These 2 were the first of robotic rebels in Robotnik's ranks. Gemerl, Gamma, Omega, all rebelled against Dr. Denver Omelet. Is it too crazy to assume that these guys wouldn't either? And I know I'm not the first person to come up with that thought. That's nothing new. But when I look at these 2 characters and look at all the different ways Robotnik could have intended their creation, I feel like they fall somewhere in the middle. And if there were modern interpretations, I feel like they would fit right about here. The more I think about it, the more I don't understand why Heavy and Bomb couldn't have taken the place of Orbot and Cubot. And I know that sounds sacrilegious to some of you fans, I've warmed up to those 2 as well, but seriously, they'd fit right in. Both pairs are fun-sized, not really a danger, and also not really bad guys either. Yeah, they help out the Doctor, but it almost feels reluctant. They've been around Sonic and pals before. They don't seem to have any intention to hurt the animal buddies. Now, Orby and Cubie here are the latest in a long line of robotic duos for Robotnik, but I think this is the first time he's ever had a pair like these in the video game. Before that, we had a pair of robots in Sonic X and, of course, Scratch and Grounder in the old American cartoon. And Heavy and Bomb have never been portrayed in this dynamic, but you could see how it could work, right? Maybe neither of them speak, they just express themselves through action. You could even have the pair of them in the modern games as failed prototype partners, before Eggman moved on to the Shape Bots. Ooh, or the Robot Rejects that are now helpers over at Tails' workshop or the Detective Agency. How great would that be? That'd be so great. Look at their wonderful little faceless designs. They do look like rudimentary, simple robots that Eggman rejected without realizing that he had stumbled upon artificial sentience, throwing out these two without realizing his own genius. He does have a history of creating proper artificial intelligence and never taking advantage of that in the games. There is so much potential. I'm just spitting out ideas here. My point is there can be a place for these robots, both on the side of good or as comical lackeys, because we've seen both play out before, and you can even fit them back into the canon without replacing the beloved ball and box. Well, that probably won't ever happen. You're likely never gonna see these robots in the modern game. Hello? Who are you? Yeah, so, apparently Bomb shows up in Sonic Lost World. Okay, this is actually just a Bomb Badnik. These have been around since the very first Sonic game, and Bomb from 32X, I guess, is just a more advanced version of this robot. But you can tell from the latest color scheme that that's clearly a callback to the character we're talking about today. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for Heavy, though. As far as I can tell, there are no cameos of this guy, so if you know something I don't, please let me know in the comments. Closest I can find would be in name only with the hard-boiled Heavies from Sonic Mania, but obviously those are egg robos, those are not the goofy little salt shaker dudes with boxing gloves. So yeah, that's quite the stretch, but if anybody was ever going to do a mention of these two again, it's probably Christian Whitehead and the rest of the team that made Sonic Mania, so wouldn't surprise me at all if they show up again in a future throwback platformer. But that's really all you got in terms of the games. Thankfully, the comics are a different story, and we're gonna skip Fleetway entirely because they don't even show up in the UK book. But they did show up in Archie, and while it's not a lot of stuff, it's still a significant amount to discuss. And I will once again say, I hate their stupid faces. I hate these faces so much. So yes, like I went over when I covered the Chaotix book, they first showed up with Mighty, who befriended them first because of course he did, he's such a sweet boy. And in this canon, they did confirm that they were built a bit too well and gained sentience, having stolen power gems from Robotnik to help out the rest of the Chaotix. And while they were a large help in freeing the freedom fighters and all that, strangely, they would just disappear after this, only to show back up in a closet, I guess. They would actually be recruited by Skunky St. John as part of the Kingdom of Acorn's secret service, going on secret missions for the king. And honestly, their stories are pretty fun, and these missions would lead to some pretty significant characters for the Archie canon, including Elias, Sally's long-lost brother. And it was good to see the robots again, but they didn't really do much outside of fill out the roster. Even Knuckles doesn't acknowledge the two of them when they come across the Guardian on a mission to find out what happened to Sally's mother. Also, I think this is the only time Bomb ever speaks. Throughout all these years, I never realized that he never spoke, but the moment he did here, it just threw me off. He never does it again after this scene. These would be the designated roles for the robots for a little while, but unfortunately, the good times couldn't last. During one of their secret missions, they were captured and reprogrammed by Eggman, then returned to the animal people as sleeper agents, and that would all come to a head in this issue. Yeah, how many of you have scrolled past this cover in the Sonic Mega Collection, completely unaware that this psycho was indeed a video game character? Oh, Sonic, don't run away! Bomb just wants a hug! In this issue, Heavy would produce a ton of mini-bombs and hold the Acorn royal family hostage, only to be quickly dispersed by Sonic before Heavy could even finish a sentence. The mini-bombs themselves then deactivated by an EMP wave created by Rotor and Tails. And then that's it. Sonic and pals don't even talk about having to take out their former allies once they're destroyed, but they would reappear a couple years later, once again as Eggman Badniks, but this time with their proper faceless design. Bomb is once again coming in a multi-pack, and I guess they drew him holding on to a sling ring for some reason. I don't think they realized that was just part of a game mechanic and not part of the Bomb design, but whatever. And Heavy would be reintroduced as a heavy-hitting robot, with Sonic even commenting that one hit from him could take him out, which doesn't make sense because they never showed Heavy being that powerful prior to this point, and Sonic did take out the older model in one shot. Still, I guess they had to give him something to do, but of course Sonic saves the day pretty quickly, even with one last surprise bomb nearly taking out Mina Mongoose's horrible manager and boyfriend Ash. Doesn't do the job, which is a shame for all of us. I really hate that character, but that's for another time. Thankfully, this would not be the final time we saw the robotic duo, as once again years later, they would be rebuilt, but this time by Rotor and Tails, who had salvaged their core program, meaning that these are the original characters, but now with their video game design. And they do get some decent attention this time around. Not like the central focus, but they're actually in the middle of action and spouting some dialogue, with poor Heavy here even showing some concern that if he gets blown up once again, he won't be recovered. And I like that they take the time here to have Rotor or say that's not going to happen on his watch. It really felt like the freedom fighters didn't care in the slightest when they were destroyed by their hands twice over. But here, as part of Team Freedom, that shows that's not the case. They haven't been forgotten, and they're still considered an important part of the team. I also love this entire page. Heavy and Bomb are ready to tackle Metal Sonic, commenting how it's like the good old days. But back then, all three of these robots had some pretty terrible redesign. Now, all of them face off in their proper forms, but before they can engage Metal Sonic, they're saved by Shard. And if you know the history of this character, you know that this is the original model they fought back in that Chaotix comic. And now, he has returned to battle this newer Metal Sonic. Just callback after callback on this page. I love it. We would see them one final time right before they're about to face off with the Tails doll. Yeah, all of it's great. It's fun stuff. But that's really about it. Right after this, the Super Genesis wave would hit, we'd have a Mega Man crossover, and that would be that. We would not see the robots ever again in the Archie book before its cancellation. And it's likely we will not see them again in modern Sonic games, outside of that quick cameo from Lost World. All my jokes aside, these two do make me smile. I'm a sucker for their little goofy faceless designs. And despite the jokes I've made about the Archie book in terms of its quality being all over the place and how far it strays away from the source material, they didn't have to reuse these two characters, but they still kept coming back to them year after year, which I greatly appreciate. It goes to show us that these two characters do matter and they do have stories worth telling. And I don't want to leave this video on a heavy note, because these characters are the bomb. Yes, I can feel all of you groaning at that joke, and it fuels me. A few years ago, I didn't even think a game like Mania would ever happen again, so who knows what the future holds. Maybe we will see these two again. Now, it was originally at this point I felt I had talked about everything I could potentially say about these two little robots, but as I was playing the game with the two of them, just to get some footage for this particular video, it dawned on me that there's a lot more missing potential here than I realized. I've played Knuckles Chaotix so many times over for these videos and the upcoming review, but I had not once put in the code to play Heavy and Bomb at the same time. I have never done that. And when I finally did, I found myself wanting to play the entire game with them. You can't actually do that. There are some portions in some of the stages that require some of the secondary abilities of the other characters, but playing these two forced me to rely completely on the rubber band mechanic. And it was really only at that time did I realize how much I was trying to force these other characters to play as standard Sonic characters. But when you're playing a couple of little robots, you don't have the expectation to spin dash. It felt like these little guys were trying to innovate and pull off whatever nonsense they could with whatever was available. And you know what? I kind of wish the Chaotix was just a game specifically about these two robots. Yeah, it's not perfect, not by any means, but I think that's one of the greatest failings of the game. If they were so obsessed over this rubber band nonsense, they should have had characters that relied solely on it. When you attach any of these other characters, it really feels like they're dragging each other down. But with Heavy and Bomb, I can see so much potential to make them work together, because that's what I had to do while I was playing them. And it was actually pretty fun. And I can already see the goofy story forming in my head. Two little robotic rebels trying to escape Eggman's factory. That's really cute, and that would have been really interesting. I'm gonna play this a little bit more, so by the time we come around to the actual Chaotix video, I'll have this idea a little more fleshed out. But yes, joking aside, playing with Heavy and Bomb really and truly made me appreciate the rubber band nonsense in ways I had not all these years prior. So yes, they are, low-key, potentially some of the best characters ever produced by this series. This started off as a quick little appreciation for these two, and now we have a video that's longer than the Espio episode. What am I doing? You know what? What the hell? Sega, I want these guys back. They're adorable, they bring out the best of each other when they're tied together with a magical set of rings, and they make me believe in a goofy mechanic I had always just tolerated up to this point. I want to see a game taking advantage of these two. I am done underestimating Heavy and Bomb, and I hope after this video you give these little guys a second chance as well, because they are not only worth remembering, they are worth bringing back. And that is going to do it for this episode. I'll be back next week with a whole other topic for Chaotix Plus. So until then, toot toot, Team Mechanics.